Today, I want to reflect on how certain celebrities manage to avoid getting canceled, in spite of having done things or said things that are worse than things that are done or said by others who the cancel culture types succeed at getting canceled. And what really brought this to mind for me, I was kayaking when you're sitting alone in your boat on the lake. You don't have your camera phone with you this time because you don't want to be an idiot like last time where you recorded a video of yourself and your boat almost capsized and you almost destroyed your camera phone. So this time you've got nothing to entertain you but your own thoughts. And this thought crossed my mind for some reason. Why did Quentin Tarantino escape being canceled? Why and how did that happen? Now, I'm not a Quentin Tarantino hater. I like a lot of his movies, and I even find him somewhat likable. I know some of you are going to disagree with me strongly on that. I get what's obnoxious about him and his persona, but I also think there's a kind of down-to-earth quality to him. There's like a regular guy quality to him where, he's somebody who just sounds off about things and he's had some interesting takes on things with regard to cinema that again I have liked, I have enjoyed. But how does one get away with what he got away with no repercussions at all? What am I talking about? What I'm specifically referring to is this interview that he gave with Howard Stern several years ago. I think it might have been 2003 or 2004, somewhere in that period of time. And in this interview, Howard Stern was actually the voice of reason, if you can believe that. But it concerned Roman Polanski and the 13-year-old girl that he drugged and raped. And I don't even say allegedly because I don't even think there is any allegedly about it. Does anyone dispute it? Does Polanski himself dispute that it happened? I don't believe so. All right. So they were talking about this case, and as you may or may not know, Tarantino said, yeah, but she wanted it. She really wanted it. And Howard Stern, again, who typically would be the person to say outrageous or offensive things for effect, for shock value, he was like, no, what are you talking about? That's crazy. That's nuts. She's 13. And he was just like, no, she wanted it. It wasn't really rape or whatever. and that reminds me, of course, of Whoopi Goldberg saying that it wasn't rape of this same subject. They were talking about it on that terrible show she's on. I think she's still on it, which I won't call by name because I don't want to bring bad mojo down upon myself. There's some influences that you just spiritually want to keep out of your psychic transom, as it were. And they were talking about what happened to this girl, and she said, well, okay, but it's not rape, so it's not rape. So I guess everything that I'm saying about Tarantino also extends to Whoopi Goldberg. I mean, people, don't get me wrong, people complained. People were irate. People were outraged about both of them saying what they said. But there were no real repercussions. There were no real consequences. Tarantino went right on with his career, and so did Whoopi. Such as it was, But anyway, there was no. They didn't get ostracized. They didn't get condemned. Yes, this was before social media, but you would still think. I mean, it was things like that were still happening at that time. I think it's. I think when people say, "Oh, well, before social media, these kind of things didn't happen," before Twitter mobs were a thing, and that's not exactly true. I've done a prior video about people who were canceled in the 80s, including Jimmy the Greek, and a few others. So why did it not happen for Quentin Tarantino? And to a lesser extent, I'm not as interested in Whoopi Goldberg, but to the effect that it did, to the just looking at the fact that it didn't happen to her either makes one wonder. Now, you do kind of wonder if this is partly a Hollywood thing, because Roman Polanski, if you'll recall, when was it Meryl Streep or somebody mentioned him and how he should be pardoned at some awards show, and it got a standing ovation by a bunch of people, a bunch of Hollywood types. Clearly someone like Roman Polanski has garnered a lot of support. He's got clout for whatever reason, and he can get away with doing something like what he did with very little repercussion. Now he fled the country, and he's still, I think, hiding out in France, if he's still alive. I don't even know. I guess he's still alive, but I'll have to check on that. Was it just the fact that was Tarantino saying this to kiss up to Polanski? Was this some kind of ritualistic thing? At one time before, I would have just rolled my eyes at the whole idea that there are rituals happening in Hollywood. I definitely don't doubt that is the case now. So it could be that this whole interview was something in which Tarantino was set up to do this, or I don't know, determined himself to do this, or decided to sound off in Polanski's favor, even though he did something completely indefensible. But I don't see how. Take, I don't know, somebody that comes to mind, Paula Deen. I'm not a supporter. This should not imply that I support, or that I either support or don't support any of these people. When I mention them, I'm just measuring their cases side by side and looking at them objectively. So what did Paula Deen do? Well, it was discovered back in the 80s, in 1986, I think it was, that someone of a melanin-enriched persuasion had broken into her house, and she called the police and said, "There's a Nigerian in my house." There's someone from Niger, from the country of Niger, which is spelled with one G. That's in my house. And when that was discovered, it was like the world ended for Paula Deen and her whole career as a chef, her whole career as a raconteur or whatever she is, ended, and she lost a lot. I think she's maybe gained some of it back, but at the time it was like, ooh, that's it for her. But she's done it now. What do you mean? What did she do? Like 30 or 40 years ago, when she was in a distressed state of mind, she used a racial slur, and that means that she's done for. I mean, look, if that's a bad thing that can ruin your career, then what Tarantino said in that interview definitely should have ruined his career, but it didn't. And I also want to mention South Park, and I say this as someone who often enjoyed South Park, often really treasured their irreverence of it, and how they seemed to delight in making fun of liberals and making fun of politically correct people and so forth. That became a huge appeal of the show. With everything that they did, all of the sacred cows that they took on, you would think that somewhere along the way somebody would have done something about them. Somebody would have axed them. I mean, honestly, to compare them, to make a comparison here, $1 Million Extreme, Sam Hyde's show that lasted just for a year on Adult Swim. I don't think it was as offensive, quote unquote, as South Park was. I mean, just from what I can remember, I don't believe that it in any way broke new ground in edgy humor or whatever. Yet Sam Hyde and $1 Million Extreme got canceled, and South Park was on for decades. It's still on. It's still on the air. Now, why is that? Where's the rhyme and reason there? What I come to believe, or what I sense to be the case, and I'm no insider, so I this is no definitive answer, and take it with a grain of salt. But what I sense to be the case is that they must represent in some way some kind of controlled opposition. I've talked about this before. Now, whether it's like like somebody took them, like maybe did Matt and Trey start out as legit, and then somewhere along the way someone took them aside and said, look guys, we like what you do, it's funny and all that, but let's cool it with these kinds of jokes, or those kinds of jokes, or let's make fun of like I do remember that they made fun of people who had alternate ideas about September 11th. That was something that they mocked. I remember they mocked Mel Gibson. So they weren't terribly politically incorrect in those kinds of ways. But nothing really. I mean, those as notable as those incidents were, nothing compares to their vaccination special and to their pandemic special, where they were pretty much holding up the standard line, particularly the vaccination special. When I saw that they were basically just putting out the idea, seeding the idea that, yeah, guys, you should trust what you're told by all the official sources on the subject of the Baj. That was what really soured me on Matt and Trey, and that was what made me think they've been compromised. Again, just my impression. But isn't it strange, someone like, there's no real rhyme or reason to it. And it can't all be blamed on Twitter and social media. And I know, because I know that plays a role. But ultimately, the ones who make these kinds of decisions to take people down, to either take people down or to make sure that people are not taken down, I think those come from way, 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 way up. The power to take someone down does not originate from some nobody, some angry SJW who's essentially a nobody, hammering away at his keyboard. That's someone like that is just a pawn, ultimately, I believe. So I think it must come down to things that we don't know, things that we don't see, allegiances that are forged that we aren't aware of, and that we will not be privy to, we will not be told about. I see no other way of understanding these two, for example, these two inconsistencies, these two examples of inconsistencies, of which there are many more. These are not the only ones that I can think of. I just can't summon any others to my mind right now. I don't know how does Tarantino still have a career when he says a little girl was who got raped wanted it. A little girl who got drugged and then anally violated by this sick creature, Roman Polanski. That she wanted it and it wasn't a big deal, and that it wasn't rape. How do these people get away with saying that? Unless, again, someone like Polanski is just untouchable, has attained, supreme warlock status within Tinseltown, and so speaking out in his favor actually helps you, whereas the other Paula Deen is not the same kind of individual, does not wield the same kind of power, and of course Sam Hyde and his crew, his merry gang of misfits, they don't wield the same kind of power that that Matt and Trey and the South Park people do. But it must, again, there's no real rhyme or reason to any of it. So those are my thoughts on this subject, and I welcome anybody else's input. Thanks for watching. My name's Andy DeWicki. Please check out my work at altrightnovelist.com. That's my author page, and my new book is The Insurrectionist. Please check it out at terrorhousepress.com.